Hi, everybody. My name is Richard Anthony. I'm the Vice President in charge of advocacy for Zero Waste USA. And we have a couple national campaigns that we have going. One is to save the albatross. If you want to check into that, go to the albatrosscoalition.org. But this is COOLNow, compostable organics out of landfill now. It's a national campaign to divert all compostable organics from the landfill and incineration. We'll start the lecture with a talk about the mission of Zero Waste USA. Next, the mission is to reduce the climate impacts of misplaced organics by encouraging all 50 U.S. states to develop robust use and compost infrastructure, and to move away from landfilling and incineration compostable organics as soon as possible. In addition, to provide substantive resources for individuals and groups to support these efforts at home, school, work, play, as well as through advocacy. The vision is to form a national campaign where compostable organics are deemed too valuable to landfill and are instead diverted to beneficial reuse at home, municipal, or commercial compost systems. These systems then produce contamination-free amendments that, when applied to gardens and landscapes, farms, and open land, naturally sequester atmospheric carbon in the soil, where it is slowly converted into energy by plants and microflora. So the objective of this campaigns would be basically to educate and raise awareness throughout the country about the benefits of organic composting, provide tools and resources, showcase solutions via papers and webinars that are happening throughout the country at the decentralized and even centralized level, which is California, promote innovative infrastructure, and develop, support, and promote legislative efforts. So that's our objectives in this campaign. Put together a team of advisors who are internationally known for their expertise in this particular area. Includes myself, Brenda Platt, who's the Director of Composting for Community Projects for the Institute of Local Self-Reliance in Baltimore, Maryland. Sally Brown, PhD, Research Associate Professor, University of Washington, Seattle. Stuart Buckner, President, Buckner Environmental Associates, Eastlip, New York. Peter Anderson, President of Recycle World Consulting and Executive Director for a competitive waste industry in Madison, Wisconsin. Kevin Drew, who's a carbon positive future and retired zero waste coordinator for San Francisco Department of Environment, and Jeff Lindefall, retired composting practitioner from Monterey, California. In this case, Brendan will talk about the decentralized garden approach. Sally Brown will talk about procurement and why we need to have the government agencies go after the organic compost to create the market. Stu Buckner, who was head of the Composting Association and has done major conventions on edible food. We'll talk about edible food recovery. Peter Anderson on methane from the landfills, and Kevin Drew about what's happening in terms of carbon farming for sequestering carbon. Jeff Lindenthal actually built a small solid composting facility in Monterey, and he can talk about how that's working out. Next. So the number one priorities in this campaign, of course, is to reduce human-caused methane. This is greenhouse gases are a big issue. The experts are telling you today that we need to stop creating greenhouse gases. What it's doing is causing global warming and tremendous change in weather and climate. So the goal is to reduce greenhouse gases by composting organics. We actually do that. The organics in the landfill are not allowed to decompose and create methane. They're not there. They're going to be composted and made into soil amendment. And that would be the second part. It would be the food reduction and recovery. And the edible part of this thing is that there's some edible food out there that needs to go to pantries to feed the homeless, or in fact, even feed animals. So it would be feed people, feed animals, and then feed the soil, which brings us to local-based composting. And what we're finding out is around the country, people are using their backyards to grow food and vegetables, and composting is a greater part of that process. And people who don't have backyards who still want to do it join together in local community groups that actually share the organics and share the results. And the other part is that create basically a national need to use the compost over petrochemicals for a lot of good reasons. Mainly that this will help our soils and create the microbiology that needs to happen to help things grow, and it'll be a good use to use our compostable materials. Carbon farming has also been shown that if you spread just a little bit of mulch or compost on top of rangelands, the carbon sequestration is absolutely amazing. And we have and Kevin Drew can talk about the scientific evidence that shows this. And finally, the infrastructure development, I'm talking about how do we move towards the organic, the cool society where compostable organics are collected either at the home or at a drop-off center or with a collection system that takes it to a composting facility or a farm. So let's just talk about the human-caused methane. The key here is a great study that was created by the Global Methane Assessment, which is a UN report. And the bottom line is it warns that the current thresholds will reduce heat. And if we went into compost, if global warming beneath current thresholds will reduce heat and heat stress, will improve air quality, will improve food security, prevent crop losses, and create jobs. And the bottom line is that by taking the methane out of the landfill, the organics out of the landfill, we're not creating a leachate, which is a water quality issue. We're not creating methane, which is an air quality. We're actually creating a resource that will make our soils more healthy, could retain water, and grow better product food, better food growth actually in the composting areas that use compost, higher growth rates. Next. So when we look at the infrastructure of the what's happening in terms of what's being discarded, whether it's at the curb or in the backyard or in the fields, 50% of our discards are organic, and so 21% are food scraps, and the rest are paper and organics and food waste, and these all become a great recipe for making good soil amendment. And landfills cause a lot of problems in terms of the methane and the leachate. Well, in my experience, back in the 80s in Fresno, we spent millions of dollars trying to mitigate the leachate that was dripping into the water supply, which was feeding the local wells. And this is an issue happening around the country. We never needed to put the organics in the landfill. We never did it historically, and we stopped doing it now. Next slide. So, bottom line is that the composting for communities will create better soil and better watersheds. When added to soil, compost can filter out urban stormwater pollutants as 60 to 95% if handled correctly. So it's all about the soil. We want to protect the soil for desertification and soil erosion, and we want to enhance the plant disease suppression. Next slide. So what we have at the grassroots level, in lieu of the government's unable to act quickly, although I have to say around the country there are many cities that ban yard waste from the landfill. A lot has to do with the fall in the East Coast and all the trees dropping their leaves all at the same time so they can collect it and deal with it. But it's a start. What we have now is that people are starting to do in their gardens. And the other part is, as we're looking at cities like Detroit and Baltimore, where the urban area, Long Beach, California, for crying out loud, the urban areas have a lot of vacant lots, old buildings that are not there anymore. These can be turned into urban gardens where people share the property, or even in Long Beach, it's actually turned into an urban farms, and they're actually or growing food for the local community. It makes a good idea. So these projects will help create enhance the soil and sequester carbon and reduce waste and build resilient, healthy communities. It brings people together to make that, and it gives them attachment to the soil, which creates a relationship that we slowly, by urbanization, have been alienated from. So local-based composting is a great idea. And the other part is even cities. We have cases where cities have, in San Diego, there are several areas that are community gardens where people sign up and maintain their gardens. It's run by the community, but it's a city operation. We encourage as much of this as possible. Next slide. The other part is if you want to make this work, we cannot continue to use the petrochemicals and other kinds of artificial soil amendments to deal with our soils. It's not good for the air. It's not good for pollution, and the residual is not good either. What we want to do is put this material back on, whether it's a farm or a landscape or the edge of the freeway. What we want is the municipalities, the schools, the park districts, the public works department, and landscapers doing jobs for government agencies on contract to use compostable organics as their soil amendment. That will help create the market. Once the market's taken care of, and we say to the jurisdictions, the health departments, and no longer we're putting organic compostable materials in the landfill. What we've done is we've eliminated the pollution alternative and created a demand for a product that's going to help us have better food and better sustainability. So another thing that has happened in California, some managers of large rangeland have taken out mulch and in some cases composting, but mostly just mulched up yard waste that hadn't been fully composted, and spread it across the soil to create a water retention kind of organic mulch. And what has happened is this material is sequestering in the carbon, and it involves it'll improve the rate at which the CO2 is removed from the atmosphere and converted into plant material and soil organic matter. More and more, we're starting to encourage the farmers to use this as a way to maintain their pastures, make them green, keep water retention. And today in California, my goodness, with the drought going on, this is almost mandatory, really, that we protect our soils with the organics that we have to help keep them moist and be able to have plant growth. I think this may be one of the main solutions in solving where this stuff is going to go. Next slide. And then finally, as in Monterey, the big Monterey integrated waste management facility is really a model of somebody who did it right. They have a landfill here. That's somewhere in this plot map. But in the beginning of there's a last chance mercantile, and really all the durable goods, all the reusable goods are pulled right off the trucks and mom and pops and flatbeds that come in and put on shelves, and they're sold. And most of it goes as fast as 3 or 4 days. It's a pretty amazing thing. We would take tours up there and we watch the vendors just wait for the customers to come in. Also on the property is the materials recovery facility, so they take care of the organics. The recyclables. But on the other half, what they've done is lease lands off to farmers, and they're making compost. So the organic comes in separately from separate collection programs. Bay Area is very popular with that, and here they're composted and made into soil amendment. It's a nice process. Well, what Jeff did is for the hard to handle organics that are coming in, he built a small scale high solids digester. It's aerobic. It fits on a local property. It's more expensive than composting, but it's small enough to be cost effective. And there are things that you just don't want to put in back in the soil, like animal entrails and offal and things like that, that have to be dealt with in an integrated waste management system. And the digester handles that. So this is in Monterey, and our website will have examples of how this is all working out. Next slide. So the bottom line is that we have a website that we've created, which will have the publications from these experts on their progress towards meeting their goals, whether it's carbon farming or local decentralized composting, and get involved. So we have a listserv in which you can listen or you can talk. It's called COOLNow.org. You can join the listserv, and what we hope is we have a community of organic supporters, compostable supporters that are going to join nation. This is going to be our grassroots campaign. We want to provide the challenge and ideas and solutions. Go down to your COOLNow.org. And then we want to report back on innovations and legislations in your city and your state, so that we'll show the progress, whether a small city has gone on to ban organics from a landfill or the whole state took it on. Join our committee. We'll probably create these committees in the fall. We'll let you know through the listserv, and then donate via Zero Waste USA. This is a very important program. It's important that it happens now, and it's important that the grassroots organizers, the city managers, the sustainability directors, the recycling coordinators take this as a major priority to create the collection of compostable organics for composting in their city, in their town, in their state. Thank you for your attention.